Hi there, this is Dan Misra from Total Ownership Project Management. Today I'm going to be talking to you about stand-ups in an agile project. The most identifiable feature of the agile methodology is the stand-up. The Agile Manifesto principles include three that are directly related to the stand-up. The first is that the business and the development team work together on a daily basis. Of course, the stand-up, generally being daily, is an opportunity for the business and the development team to interact on a daily basis. The second relevant principle is that face-to-face communication is the most efficient way and effective way to communicate within and to the development team. Naturally, stand-ups are face-to-face, even with remote teams and with COVID restrictions. And the third is that the team will regularly reflect on and adjust and tune its method based on what it finds about the effectiveness of its way of working. And with stand-ups, that's of course the retro. Today, most teams have a daily stand-up. But what is a stand-up supposed to be, and how can it best add value? There are so many ways for you and your team to conduct a stand-up. Some teams actually stand up and pass a ball around so that the person who is speaking is the one who's holding the ball. The way you run your stand-up is not just about how you give courtesy to the person who's speaking, of course. It's about what are they speaking about and who is the stand-up for. If aware of the different kinds of stand-up, or even that there are different ways of running a stand-up, then you can consciously choose an approach that suits your project at its particular point in time and your team. A daily stand-up can actually just be a meeting, regardless of whether it's related to the Agile Manifesto principles at all, with the label stand-up on it. Is it actually a stand-up? The Agile Manifesto explains that stand-ups and the Agile approach in general is democratic, focused on the team doing the work, and the project manager at the stand-up typically either does not attend, or if they are there, they're there as a silent observer. I'm going to share three kinds of stand-up which I've encountered in my experience. These are exception-centric, update-centric, and manager-centric. For the exception-centric approach, there are two subtypes. The first one is state blockers, if there are any. The second is state whether you're on track or not, and if any blockers, state those. The update-centric approach also has two subtypes. Give updates on each ticket and state blockers if there are any. The manager or the scrum master requests an update from each team member on each ticket that team member is working on. The manager-centric approach has three subtypes. The first is that there's a Q&A between the manager or scrum master and each team member on each ticket. The second is that the manager speaks about what's on their mind and asks questions. The third is that the manager tells stories and jokes and perhaps speaks about themselves. In the exception-centric approach, the first subtype is the way stand-ups should be run under the Agile methodology. The focus is on the blockers, and if there's nothing in the way of on-time delivery, then there's nothing to say in this forum and the team member can just pass. This category focuses on the negatives, where there's a problem to be solved, but won't actually solve the problem in the meeting. More detailed discussion about the problem is taken offline. The second is very similar to the first, except with the added point that each team member states whether they're on track or not, and then moves on to their blockers if they have any. In both of these kinds of stand-up, the project manager is not present, or if they are, then they're silent and just observing. If the project manager has a task on the Kanban board, then they will speak, but in the capacity of an individual contributor that's got ownership of particular tasks, not actually as the project manager. The next category, 2A, is not exception-based, but it's update-based. It's more descriptive. Each team member gives a status update on their ticket, explains what has happened since the last stand-up, and any meetings or any points about progress that they expect to happen today. In the next subtype of the update-centric approach, the Scrum Master or Project Manager will prompt the team member for the updates, and they might have some Q&A about that. They might even be tempted to go into solving the problem in the stand-up, though that's not strictly part of the Agile methodology. But if it's a quick solution or there's a need for quick feedback, then that can be given in the stand-up as well. In both subtypes of the update-centric approach, the team member may feel compelled to justify their position, and they might feel potentially a little bit more watched than in the exception-centric approach, and they might feel slightly less trusted, but it depends on how the stand-up is run. And many stand-ups are run this way, and it's entirely positive for all the team members. There's a little bit more information being exchanged. Not strictly Agile, but still works. Moving on, we've now departed the world of Agile, and we're now firmly into the domain of having a meeting every morning. In the first subtype of the manager-centric approach, the manager actively queries individuals, asks about particular things that are of interest to the manager for each particular task of each team member, and there may be a back and forth, a Q&A, and a lot of drill down in the meeting, which we have to note that it may occupy the time of other team members when there's a discussion going on that's not relevant to those other team members. But the manager can choose to keep this within boundaries so that if the drill down goes too deep, then that can be taken offline for a separate meeting with that particular team member. The tone, manner, spirit, personality of the manager greatly affects which way this kind of stand-up goes. Do the team members feel not trusted? Do they feel disempowered? Or do they actually appreciate the interest and the involvement of the manager? So it could actually be a very positive experience and build the team's spirit and morale, or it might be something that makes team members feel less empowered and less willing to go the extra mile even as well. The next subtype, where the manager asks questions and raises issues that are on their mind without any connection to the Kanban board, is a meeting that's really run for the manager. So the manager has concerns from other meetings that they attend, from other forums that they attend. They're doing a lot of planning in the background. They have to give a lot of reports, financial reviews of the project's costs, the schedule, and there might be some certain questions that are raised from their senior managers to understand certain aspects of the project, why it's going the way it is going, which aren't related to the work of the actual team members. So that all the relevant people are in the room, and the manager naturally uses this as an opportunity to capture that information, to ask questions from the team members. The team members that aren't involved in that particular topic might be wondering, why am I here? As in, is there a better way for me to spend my time? I want to just go back and carry on with my work because I'm not able to add value to this discussion. So the manager needs to be aware that there might be a better way of using other team members' time. But we can understand why this sort of meeting is held, because the manager may not know who is the right person to talk to. Everybody's here, let's have an open discussion about it. So we just need to be aware that this is not agile, this is really just a meeting. And there are good reasons why the manager needs to have these kinds of meetings sometimes, but also it's important to be aware of the impact on the team members. It's useful for them to be aware of what's the concern of the more senior hierarchy about this project so that they can make decisions bearing those concerns and priorities in mind. But at the same time, no doubt they've got a lot of work on their plate and they would like to best use their time to close out those tasks that need to be completed in this sprint. The third subtype of where the manager tells stories, jokes, maybe talks about themselves, is great for the morale of the team, at least in the short term, but we need to know that the spotlight is on the manager. The idea of agile is that it's democratic and everybody feels safe to speak equally, and when the spotlight's always on the manager, it might help everybody feel comfortable and safe, but not necessarily safe to speak and to explain what's on their mind and to raise problems. But they might, and there may be an update circle where the team members each give an update, and this kind of manager no doubt will want to propose solutions to any problems that come up, and no doubt their input will be valuable as well. So this is another type of stand-up, but it's really more of a daily meeting of the team, which is a valuable thing. What kind of stand-ups do you run? Has this video given you any ideas on how to adjust your stand-ups? Or has it prompted the thought of seeking feedback from your team on the impact of your stand-ups on your team members? And is there a different way that you'd like to run stand-ups in the future? Thank you.